All right, party people, let's keep it going. So, in this part, we're going to continue building the Rick and Morty app series, particularly focusing on pagination for our search results, as well as fixing a kind of weird bug that I discovered. So, that being said, hit that like button down below, say hello in the comments before we get into things, tweet the channel, all the socials. It helps out a lot, especially if you've gotten this far. Presumably, you've been enjoying it. So, let's continue. So, the first thing that I want to do is fix this like strange bug, which is if I go to search and there's nothing selected, or there's nothing inputted, I should say, in our search fields, and I hit search, it kind of doesn't make sense, right? Like it's kind of like an empty query. The API does give us results because we're not filtering a status or a gender, and there's no term to query by. And this actually occurs on all of our tabs. So in this case, for episodes, we don't have any options, yet we still see that we can get results. So let's jump into our, I think I called it the RM search view model.swift, where our actual searches get executed. And let me see where exactly that is. So there's execute search here. And here we do search text, which makes sense. Now, I guess what we want to do first and foremost here is we'll just guard that search text is something. So I'll say guard search text. We're going to trim characters and white space character sets, so like any spaces or tabs or whatnot. We're going to validate that it is not empty. So we're going to say is empty, and we're going to add a exclamation mark there to get the inverse of that. And, you know, if it's not empty, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to execute a search. So let's go back and give it a quick build and run. And let's make sure that that is indeed valid. So if I hit this, nothing happens. If I type in Rick and I hit it, we should now get some results. So beautiful, that part is working. Alrighty, so back in our search results for locations, if I'm not mistaken, we set up pagination for this. Looks like we actually didn't. I think we only set it up for the actual tab. Yep, that makes sense. So let's actually set up pagination for location search results, since it is a tad bit simpler. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a lot of copy and pasting in this video, since we already built this out, and I'm just going to steal it for another part of our app. So we want to go into our controllers, and under our location view controller, you'll see that this guy has our RM location view. So we'll jump into here, and this view should have our table view, which makes sense. And if we continue further down, what you'll notice is, let's see, where is it? We got to find basically where we are setting up its delegate. So we should be saying table view.delegate and data source is self. All right. Beautiful. Found it right here, table view stuff. And essentially what I was looking for is this. So if we scroll to the bottom, we call this scroll view did scroll function. We actually call it every time we scroll. And once we're at the bottom, we'll dispatch a request to go and get more results as needed. So I'm going to lift this entire thing, and we're going to open up our view where the table view exists for search results. So stay with me here, because our app has gotten a little large and I don't want this to be too all over the place. So we have our search results view, and this is a view for which we have a table view inside. And here we have view models, which is going to be process view models. And this view model is an enum, if you recall. So what I will do is I'm going to come down here and paste that, and we're going to add this extension onto the RM search results view. So bear with me here. All right, so we should get rid of this first error because we're now extending the search results view. We're verifying that we have a view model, which in fact we do. We are checking that view model.cell view models isn't empty. Now, none of this stuff exists, and we're also saying should show load more indicator. None of this stuff exists basically on this view model. So what we'll want to do in essence is handle all this. So let me comment all this out, and we're going to handle this one by one. And what we're actually going to need to end up doing is a little bit of refactoring on our search results view model. So let's get to it. So I'm going to build and run. And you can tell we're doing this on the fly because we're going to figure this out together. This is not pre-planned by any means. So when I hit search, let's say I type in Earth here, what we're returning in our view model at the moment is basically just an enum, which is not great. And the reason it's not great is because we aren't actually holding on to any of the relevant data we need. Like, hey, like, do we have more results? Like, should we show the loading indicator? All of that good stuff. So the place we set this, let me see where we're setting this, is we're saying process view model. We have a configure with view model here for our search results view. So let's see where this view is created. We should hopefully be creating it in one place. All right. And then on the results view, we're going to be calling configure somewhere. And we call it whenever this result handler is invoked. So let's see where it's invoked. Should be inside our search view model. Alrighty. Okay, cool, good deal. So basically what we want to do is we want to refactor our search results view model. So let's see where we are getting our results. So here is our results VM. We called it a RM search results view model. Let me change the name of this type to be our RM search result type. So because if you think about it, like what we have in here is we have an enum with associated values, and these are more or less the type for our particular case. So here I am going to say this is type, and what I'll do is, let's see if I can get away with a project-wide search and replace. So I'm going to rename this to be type. So we'll hit this little find drop down to get to replace. And let's rename this to search result type, like so. And let's do a command B. We should still be building and able to run. And now what I'll do is I am going to create a view model, which will be the same thing that enum was called before. Like so. This is going to be of type struct, and it's going to have a property in here, which is going to be called results of type RM search result type. So go ahead and build. Everything should be good to go. And we're going to now wrap this result into this struct. So if we do a Command Shift F to do a project-wide search, what you'll realize is that in a few different places, we want to actually update the usage of this enum. So instead of having our result handler return the type here in our view model, we're going to return the view model. Similarly, down here, what we are going to do is update the signature here to return the view model. Down here, we are going to amend this momentarily. So we have that results type here. So what I can do is say let VM is this view model passing in results like so. And that VM will go there. We see we now have some errors, which is expected. And the reason we have those errors is because we've once again changed the types. So here we're saying results view, configure with results. And instead of configuring with results, we actually get a single view model here. So we're going to say results view, configure with, and again, change this here as well to be our view model. And once more, hopefully this is the last actual type to change. We'll change this here as well. And when we say process view model, what we want to do is not only do we want to switch on the view model, what we want to switch on is actually view model.results. And these errors here should go away. And let's try to compile. And we should be good to go, hopefully. So here we're creating the collection view cell view models. And in this case, we're creating, let's see what we're doing for setup table view for view models. In this case, we are using the location cell view models. So we have two collections here for our view models, one for the collection view and then one for the actual table view. So let me write this here because this is getting a little complicated. So we'll say table view, view models. Here we're going to say collection view models. And let's just give it a build and run, make sure that all this jazz is still working. So if I come into here and it shouldn't matter really what thing I'm searching for. I just want to make sure everything is still good to go, which in fact it is. So cool, we've abstracted our search results view model to be a struct which contains a property, which is one of the cases for our enums here. Now, the benefit of doing this is that we can now on the struct have more appropriate properties and methods to allow us to figure out if we need to load more results. And let's see how we can actually do that. So here we're creating our results VM. And if you look at this function, we actually get a model in here. And what we have off of this model, and this is the same for all of these, is something that's really important, which is info. And info here has our count, our pages, our next, and our previous. So what we'll actually want to do is the following. So let me jump back into our search results view model. Let me command click into here. And inside of here, we can actually have all of these properties as well. So let's say we want next, previous, pages, and count. And the only thing, if you think about it, that we need is the next URL. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me grab next here. And what I will do is we'll come back over here and we're going to create this next URL right up here. So we'll say next URL will be string optional like so. And here we're going to say next is our model dot next or info. Let's see, model dot info. Oh, it's because we casted it, so we want to use a proper name. So here dot info dot next. Alrighty. Similarly, we can come down here and do this as well, but we want to just update the name. And we'll do this here as well, updating this name. So beautiful. Now that we have that, we can pass in next as our next URL. Okay, so let's see what the problem is here. It's yelling at me. So we're saying next, we're assigning here. I think I actually called it next URL. So let me update all of these guys. And we should be able to compile, hopefully. All right, awesome. So now what we want to do is let's go back to our RM search results view.swift, and let's make sure we open up the right one. And at the very bottom where I pasted in that table view business, we can start to do some more stuff. So what we can do is we can validate that we have our view models. So when scroll view did scroll is called, we want to go down one of two paths. So in the case of table view, we'll deal with that one first. We want to validate we have location cell view models, and we're going to say that it's not empty. In other words, we have our initial set of results. Okay, so that basically takes care of this guy that's commented out. The next thing we want to know is, should we load more results? So what I can do is I can say view model should show loading indicator, right? So like basically, do we have more results to load? And should we show that indicator? So let's jump back to our view model and let's see what the best way to do that is, because that property does not exist yet. And what I will do inside of here is add a public computed property, and essentially all that we are going to do is we're going to return whether the next URL doesn't equal nil. And if it doesn't equal nil, we know that we have another page to grab results for. So that's where this check comes in. So we can delete this next commented outline. And finally, we want to make sure that we're not already in the process of loading more results. In other words, we don't want to duplicate the actual pagination call. So similarly here, what I will do is, in this case, we can probably make it a public and private set property, which is loading more locations. And I'll actually call it is loading more results to be more generic. By default, this is going to be set to false. So here we are validating that this thing is indeed false. And it looks like it is yelling at me because I renamed it to results. Okay, So let's delete these comments here and let's see what we've got going on in this timer down here. So when this timer gets called, we're basically debouncing the scroll. In other words, we have a slight delay that we've done in all of our pagination setup across the app. Then what we do is we grab the offset and we do our calculation to make sure that we can in fact go and start loading, right? In other words, like we're at the bottom. Now, once we're at the bottom, we're saying show the loading indicator, and off the view model, we're saying fetch additional locations. Now, we don't have this yet, so let me go and just give it a run and make sure that we at least see that spinner at the bottom. So I'm gonna come in here and search for Earth. We're gonna scroll down, and I expect to see the spinner, which in fact I do now. One thing you might notice, just to take a gigantic step back, is that we're duplicating this pagination logic a lot across our project, and that just screamed to you that we're repeating ourselves, that we can consolidate our code. So that's perhaps something we'll address later on once all this jazz works. I just want to call it out that it's not lost on me. So if you're thinking it, I'm aware of it as well. So cool. So we don't have this fetch more additional locations thing yet. And if you think about it, we're going to want the same logic for our actual collection view as well, for characters and for episodes. For now, we'll just create a function with this name to keep our code simple. So let's say this guy over here, presumably this implementation already exists. So I am actually going to see where it exists, and I'm going to steal the implementation. Alrighty. So in this case, we're doing some checks. So I'm going to copy and paste this whole guy here, and we are going to paste it in. So we're saying is loading more results. We're going to verify we're not. And then we're going to verify that we have a next URL. So we grab it, which is our next. We create that next URL. We set the loading more results to be true. Thereafter, we try to create a request with that URL, and if we're not able to, we basically set this flag back to false, and then we try to go and create a request with that created URL, more or less. So is loading more results, we set that equal to true, so cannot assign property. Self is immutable, makes sense. Let me make my life simple and make this a class instead of adding mutating properties. And I'm also going to add the explicit constructor here, since it is now a class and it's not going to be inferred by Swift. So here we'll say self.results is results, self.next is next. Let's just build to make sure that things are not going all over the place. Alrighty. Okay, so we have issues down here, which makes sense. We're assigning the new API info that we get back. That's not relevant because we don't have API info. We're going to assign next to info.next. So this will capture new URL if one exists. Okay. Thereafter, we're saying strong self, cell view models, append contents of. Well, that's not quite right because we don't actually have this property here. So if you try to build, you'll see some issues. So let's comment this out for a quick second. Here we want to say is loading more results becomes false. And then here we are going to comment this out as well since we don't have that function. So let's see what is going on. Alrighty, so here we have info.next and it's saying cannot assign to property next is a let, which makes sense. We want this to actually be a private var. All right, let's see what's going on. Down here, we are saying loading more locations is false, make this to be results. So if you try to compile, we should be able to compile now. I'm gonna toss a breakpoint here in our success block and just give it a run to make sure it does indeed come into here. And if it does, we are going to make sure that we are able to capture the results, the additional results, I should say, and return them to our UI. All right, so here is our initial set of location search results. I'm going to open the console here. We're going to scroll all the way down here. We see that spinner, and I should hit that breakpoint like so. Awesome. So we're not actually getting rid of the spinner, but let's do that really quick. So we are capturing the next URL. The other thing that I do want to capture here is the additional results, of course. So the way that we're doing that is by saying compact map here. So let me get rid of this comment. There is actually going to be an append, and I will discuss in a second how, but let's say additional locations will be this guy. We're compact mapping more results, and we're just creating location view models. Let's get rid of this. Now, in essence, what we want to do is be able to append to the associated value in this enum. So what I'll do here is make this once more a private var. We're going to actually make this a public private set var. And the reason we'll do that is because we'll want to override this. Overwrite, I should say. We want to overwrite it. So what I will do is I'm going to say switch on strong self.results. In the case of location, we're going to have existing results. In the case of our characters as well as our episodes, we're going to do nothing for now. But in this case, we have our new results. So we're going to say new results will be these results plus our additional locations. So now that we have this, we can actually say strong self.results will be location with the aggregate here, right? Which will be the aggregate of our results. Make sure that you're appending your new results at the ladder, at the end of this equation. Otherwise, the order of the view models will be incorrect and will not be in line with the table view. So once we have done that, we have now updated our model, which makes sense. And we want to just notify our actual UI that you can refresh yourself. So the way we're going to do that is by adding a completion handler directly into this function. So what we can do is here, we'll be able to say completion like so. So we'll notify via callback. We can get rid of this. And we'll have one error because we need to actually implement this on the calling side with the completion. So inside of here, we can say refresh table. So let's make sure we capture strong self because we don't want a memory leak. So we're going to say weak self, or weak self, I should say. The first thing we'll do is we're going to say self.tableview.tableFooterView is now going to be nil, and self.tableview.reloadData. All right, let's give it a build and run. And let's see this whole thing in action. So we're going to open up locations. We'll go to search. Going to type in Earth. Alrighty. And let's actually, maybe I'll put a breakpoint here to make sure we're actually going into there. So we will scroll all the way down. We see that spinner there, and actually it's pretty fast. So it already hit my breakpoints. And we now actually should have more results appended at the bottom, which it looks like we don't have. So let's see what happened there. So I'm going to get rid of that. All right, let's try that one more time. Alrighty, we'll search for location. I'll search for Earth here. And we're going to scroll all the way down. And we see that spinner there, but we don't actually see more results. So what on earth is going on? So it looks like we are setting this equal to nil, and we are reloading our data. So let's see what's going on. All right, so I just actually paused the video to do a quick debug session very briefly to make sure we weren't going on a total wrong direction. And in fact, we actually are on the right direction, and what we've done is actually correct. So let me jump into our search result view model. And what I will do here is actually print out the next URL. And this way we will know as a fact, what the next URL is. We can toss it into a browser and actually see that in action. And the other thing that I will do is I'm going to add a breakpoint in our success block where we get more results. We actually paginate for more location results. So let me search for Earth over here. We'll hit search, and we see in our results view model, we actually did print a next URL with page 2. which is indeed correct. So if I toss this into our browser here, you'll see that we do have some more results. And we actually have, I believe, like 6 or 7 more results. So that looks correct. And we don't have actually another next URL. So that is also correct. So let's see why we're not able to see our additional results. So our first additional result here should be the name of Earth with phone dimension. So let's scroll down and we see that we jump into here. And what I will do in the console is I'm going to PO info here, which is defined on line 50. And essentially, I just want to make sure that the info that we get back is indeed correct. So we now have next as a nil, and all of this is good to go. So let's see what's going on. Once we come down here, we're getting the additional view models that we have created. We're switching on the results. And in the case of locations, we're creating the new results here. Let's make sure that we do in fact come into here, which we hopefully do. Let's see, let's hit that play button. It looks like we're actually calling this function multiple times. We'll see why that is momentarily. Here we are assigning this to true and we're validating it's false. But anyways, we do come into this success block. And finally, we should come into here and get our callback. So here we get Earth pizza dimension as the last result. So something weird is indeed going on here. Let me see where pizza result is in this. As a byproduct of it being last in the result, it should be in our set here, but it looks like it's not. So this leads me to believe something is fishy. So let's see what is fishy. So let's print out, we're gonna print out new results.count. And actually, you know what it is? I know what is fishy. So it just dawned on me, when we call this function and we call the completion handler, we have gone ahead and actually, let's see where it is. When we've actually called this function in our rm search results view, let me type that again, rm search results view.swift, we just say table view reload data. But if you recall, we have our other collection here, and this location cell view model is being read. This is being assigned off of our view model here, basically off of the view model results. The naming is very wonky and I should really fix this. So we want to actually reassign this. So let's go ahead and do that. So before we do our refresh here, what I'll do is we want to reassign this. And the way that we do that is we can switch on the viewModel.results, or we can say new results here, and we can actually just pass this back from our closure. So let's jump back into here. And in our closure, what we will pass back is a collection of those location view models, and I'm gonna steal it from right down here. So let's jump into here, we'll change the signature, and finally down here, what I'll also do is change the signature to take in new results. So let's see why this is yelling at me. Presumably because our types are not correct, so cannot find new results in scope. That makes sense because it's inside of here. So let me go ahead and say that new results is going to be out here. And we are going to make this an empty collection to start, and I will just type it here. So here we'll say this is a collection of these view models. Alrighty, then we are actually assigning that here in our switch. So that should be good to go. And then we have one more error somewhere. And then over here, we are saying that this equals new results. So let's see what the problem is. Cannot find new results because we need to actually say new results in for our closure. And let's see what the problem is. Value of optional type results view must be unwrapped before it can be referenced. Yep, this should be self-optional. All right, give it a run. This video has been all over the place, but my promise to you guys, I'm gonna mess up along the way so we all learn together. So we're gonna scroll down and boom, we actually have our new locations showing up. And actually this isn't even search, I take it back. I spoke too soon. Let's scroll down again. And now we have our new locations showing up. So Earth phone dimension was the one that I expected to see here. And the last one here, we shouldn't see any more of the spinner because there's no more results. And the last one is the tusk dimension. So if we come down here, the last one is indeed tusk dimension. So, okay, so we finally did it. Let me just commit and push my changes and let's see if I can like clean up this code a smidge because I feel it's gotten a little messy. So let me actually add a scroll view delegate mark here. And the next thing that I'm going to do is let's actually move this to its own function. So I'm going to say private func handle location pagination. We'll paste that in there. And if you recall, we actually need to pass in the scroll view because it's referenced in here. So I'll say scroll view is a UI scroll view. And in this case, I will say handle, and we're gonna say scroll view is scroll view. If you build, should be working. And what I'll do essentially here is I can say if location cell view models isn't empty, we can handle that. Otherwise, what I want to do is we know we are going to handle a collection view in here, and we can probably stub out another function on this guy. And what we can do here is we can say handle character or episode pagination, passing in the scroll view, and we're gonna have very similar logic to what we have in our location, but I'm just keeping it separate for readability's sake for now. Later on, we'll try to aggregate all this jazz. So let me go ahead and I guess wrap the video up here. Lots of things to clean up because this view has also gotten extremely large, but appreciate if you guys stuck around through this video, me fumbling through. Drop a like down below. Let me know if I confuse any of y'all throughout the video in the comments. Do my best to help y'all out. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next part.